Welcome to Talking About Sports. We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grille. We're here with a cast of our characters here. JT, John Tobias, World Beat Freer, Mountaineer Mike Freer, and back from tour of Europe, Scandinavia, and the subcontinent, Reggie Walker. And breaking news, a couple of big trades. First, Blake Griffin from the LA Clippers to the Detroit Pistons. Mike, I may ask you some fantasy ramifications of that later on in the show. But near and dear to me, as a Washington Redskins fan, an upgrade. Alex Smith from the Chiefs. JT, you did Kansas City Chiefs preseason, did you not?
Yes, I did.
So give me some, what were some, did you hear anything? I mean, you knew when they drafted Pat Mahomes that Alex Smith's time was limited. What do you think of this Alex Smith trade, and are any of the dots starting to connect for you?
Well, you know, we all saw it coming that he was going to go ahead and get traded once when they drafted, a quarterback in the first round. But, with that being said, I look at it, guys, and I would love to get your input on this in terms of, I look at this trade from a macro standpoint. So if you look at it from a micro standpoint, some people would say that that Alex Smith, is the better quarterback, to where like the Redskins
did win the division
because the Redskins won the trade because of that, and also he threw for over 4,000 yards. But
highest
also,
quarterback rating in the league.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I can just go off on the list of things he's good
all
at
right,
doing.
you gonna let me finish though?
No, I'm gonna let you do it. You're
I had to check him, Rich, but he's still my boy though. But from a micro standpoint, yes, you can say that. But from a macro standpoint, in the grand scheme of things, Alex Smith has been in the league for 12 years. The 4,000 yards that he threw this season was the only time that he's thrown for over 4,000 yards. Kirk Cousins has been a starting quarterback for 3 years. He's thrown for 4,000 yards all 3 years. Alex Smith was in the 2000 draft. Kirk Cousins was in the draft just only a few years ago. So the thing about it is, if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, yes, the Redskins are saving money.
It's easy to throw for 4,000 when you're coming from behind every week, JT,
yeah, but
in garbage time.
Right, but Alex Smith had more talent as well. Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill. But that's why I say from a macro standpoint, it's either way how you can look at who won the trade.
I think the biggest thing for me with the Alex Smith is what he gives you that Kirk Cousins doesn't is he doesn't make mistakes. And coaches hate when quarterbacks that make mistakes. You always see that coming out of college. Did they throw a lot of interception, whatever. Only 5 interceptions last year for Alex Smith. Kirk Cousins, 13 interceptions. That's just when you don't have the talent. When you don't have the talent around you, you really can't make the mistakes that Kirk Cousins makes. And I think Alex Smith, 12 years in the league, you know what you're going to get out of him. A pretty decent quarterback who won't make mistakes and he can lead a team. He's a proven winning starting quarterback.
Here's why I'll say it this way. I think the Redskins won the trade because Kirk Cousins was going to stare them down for $100 million or $35 million as a franchise quarterback.
Absolutely.
You have to have a solution.
He didn't want to be there.
I don't care who you are. If you don't have a quarterback in this league, you will not win. So to me, the Redskins win this trade because they have the answer. What I thought the Chiefs did a great job of doing, getting the young corner in Fuller to play on the other side of Peters with Eric Berry coming back. They've basically said, we're going to play this young quarterback. We're going to spend our money on defense right now because Mahomes may not be as good as what Alex Smith is right now. But we understand that if we want to win at a high level, we're going to have to do it with defense. So, to me, I'll say slightly the Redskins won the trade, but really, to me, it's a good trade for both teams based on what they want to do moving forward.
Well, Reggie, before I get you to talk in about the state of the Panthers, we do have some news there. I'll just close as a Redskin fan and a lot of contacts. The first team I covered in 27 years of covering 4 NFL teams, JT, was the Washington Redskins.
Okay.
Worked in TV in Richmond. My good friend Al Coleman did some Redskin radio. A lot of people are disgruntled about losing Kendall Fuller. He's a stud. And DJ Swearinger said he was our guy. He graded out higher than any defensive guy at any position.
Over Josh Norman.
Well, I mean,
that's not hard to do. Yes.
I don't know about that. Josh Norman's still legit. Now, I just say that I hated losing Kendall Fuller. Alex Smith signed. He's signed, sealed, and delivered. And now everyone else who's a free agent is going to get more money thanks to Alex Smith. Kirk Cousins, Corporal Kirk, was not going to sign there no matter what. The only thing he was going to sign was a franchise tender. He wants $35 million. Let another team overpay for him. Now, Reggie, Ryan Khalil says this is going to be his last year in the NFL. I kind of saw this coming. I think Carolina still needs to upgrade the offensive line and get a big back, an everyday down back. And also, you may want to look at some defense in addition to maybe drafting a center. Although Tyler Jansen did a very good job in Ryan Khalil's absence this year.
Like I've always said, and if I'm an NFL GM, once I get past probably the third round, if I've got multiple picks in any round, one of those picks is always going to be an offensive or defensive lineman in each round. You can never have too many. You can never find enough depth at those positions. And anytime you can find depth for not a lot of money from a cap standpoint by drafting guys on the third day now, okay, the third day, if you will, of the draft, there's value there. So to me, yes, Khalil retiring, does it hurt? Yes, potentially, but I think it's a situation where I'm not saying you go look for a replacement and a starting franchise center in the third round, fourth round, fifth round, sixth round, but there's no reason why you can't start drafting guys this particular draft and also have next draft to find offensive linemen that can help fill that void.
I mean, I think your shelf life with Cam Newton it's limited now. You know,
It's on the offensive line.
And absolutely. I think you need to upgrade, improve, do whatever you can to make your offensive line better, to protect your most valuable player. It's Cam Newton. Do whatever you can. He's been taking a lot of hits over the years. After a while, that's going to start coming back to haunt him. It's going to add up after a while. You have to improve the offensive line. This, obviously, like you said, makes a lot of sense. He's at the end of his contract. He's in his mid-30s. He wasn't going to get the money he's going to get right now at the end of his deal. So makes sense for him to leave, and it gives a priority to the Panthers even bigger.
You know, guys, what I'm about to say may be considered off-putting, but I'm not so sure, guys, if Ryan Khalil would not have been cut this year. And the reason why I say that is this. He's the sixth highest paid player on the team, making $9.5 million. If he would have gotten cut before June 1st, it would have saved them $2.5 million. If he would have gotten cut after June 1st, it would have been like well over $6 million. So, I mean, I admire him in terms of like what he's done in the past, and I think that he's a good player. But by him being the sixth highest paid player and making almost $10 million a year, I'm not so sure.
So you're saying don't pay for past performance. Now, who's to say, JT, that he didn't take a pay cut and redo his deal for a team-friendly to give them more space to maybe free up some things and be a team guy?
Well, we're not privy to that information.
Well, you usually are.
Well,
I have friends in low places.
No, I'm not all the way up like that. Not all the way up. But I mean that. But
are you reporting that, Kev?
Breaking news.
I'm saying I think it's highly probable that Ryan Khalil, when announced, letting the team allowing him to announce that he's coming back for 1 year. Obviously, he can't just say, he probably wouldn't. I know Ryan Khalil a little bit, that he's not going to say, I'm coming back 1 year, and then the next week the team's going to cut him. I think he probably has, with assurances from the team, that he's got a roster spot next year and that he's doing everything in his power. Okay, I'll redo my deal, veteran minimum and incentives, and be very team-friendly. That's what I'm going to assume. I don't know that for a fact. Maybe Mike Pacheco could enlighten us if he ever gets off his world tour of Europe, Asia, Scandinavia, and the subcontinent.
Call him up.
Well, he's working a game tonight, JT. I think he's at
Winthrop.
What did he say, Longwood and or Liberty and somebody?
He's going to Lynchburg.
Yeah, it's Liberty.
Winthrop Liberty.
Yeah, Winthrop Liberty. Yeah, he's with of course with the Winthrop Eagles. We had a great feature on him last week. Now, what about the sale of the team, JT? You obviously you and William Wilson are always in the private jets going places.
You're right.
I don't know. Last I heard, Felix Abatis, Marcus and Bruton Smith getting some guys together. I mean, but then there's always people you don't know about.
That's how it is a lot of times. I mean, I'm going to give you an unpopular answer. Like, I really don't know. I don't want to say anything sexy but lie at the same time. I mean, the only high-profile person, guy, that I've heard being talked about, you know, has been Puffy. And he said he's like in the beginning stages in terms of talking. Yeah, but I mean, he's not going to buy it all by himself.
Well,
I mean, obviously,
it's pretty much
he's going to get some investors.
Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns.
Yes.
Previously, before owning the Browns, he was a part owner of the Steelers, so he was already in the club, so to speak.
Right.
And he had enough money.
Right.
And they say the principal owner should be able to just drop down 30% of the value on the spot. And I think that's kind of hard to do for a lot of people, unlike maybe you and William Wilson.
Yeah, right. The one thing, guys, I will say is that if and when there is an ownership change, do you guys think that there will be a lot of changes in terms of, like, infrastructure? Or do you think that things are going to be pretty much business as usual, aside from the part about possibly a new stadium?
I think the biggest thing about this is, for Panthers fans, the biggest relief is how much the NFL really, they've gone public with saying we want the team to stay in Charlotte. Whoever buys the team, we want them to stay in this area. They like the market. They understand that it's a good area. It's a good fan base. So, I mean, for Panthers fans, that's the biggest thing at the moment. I don't know if they necessarily, obviously they care who owns the team and everything, but I think the biggest thing was, you know what, the NFL wants a team here. So I think that's the biggest thing for Panthers fans. Reggie and I were talking before the show, and he had an idea on the stadium where he thought it could go one day.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I think there is going to be a new stadium fairly quickly in this new ownership situation. And I've said that from day one, as soon as they said this team's going to be up for sale. And it's for two reasons. I think the first reason, I think this is the thing economically that people don't think about. Whether you like it or not, right, wrong, or indifferent, anytime somebody has to pony up to the table and cut a check for $600 million, which is about what they're looking at having to cut to take over ownership of the Panthers, they want to get some of that back. The easiest way to get it back is to get the city or county or state to build you a new stadium, and then you can charge for PSLs and parking. That's how you get your money back. That's what they're going to try to do. That's just the reality. And the second piece of it is there have been discussions about trying to get a Super Bowl and all these things. What comes with new stadium? A promise to have a Super Bowl. That's why they're having a Super Bowl in a cold weather city like Minneapolis this weekend.
I still think Minnesota should have open those windows, have it cold like back in Joe Cap, bring in the old Vikings, the Purple People Eaters, Alan Page, Jim Marshall, Carl Eller. They should bring that back.
I'm not spending $1,000.
I'm not spending all that money to sit outside in that cold.
$1,000 to go to the
all those
Super Bowl.
people they go ice fishing all the time, man. Those people are crazy up there. All right, now we got to go to a break. Sorry, we don't have time to talk about the Pro Bowl. Only probably like me and JT cared about it. I don't even know who won. I don't care. I just know that Ryan Kerrigan and Kirk Cousins didn't play in, and Alex Smith did. The XFL's coming back.
Who won?
More jobs.
Who won?
At least 400 jobs coming. So there's 400 football players out there. We're coming back with more talking about sports right after this.
Seriously, who won the Pro Bowl?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I got a kingdom to get. I cannot build it with you. It's grind time. Yeah, I never switch sides. Worry about me and mine. I'm about to beat you guys to the finish line. Said I'm prime time. Yeah, I'm working part time. And I'm ready anytime. I can just look at you in town. I got a kingdom to get. I cannot build it with you. It's grind time. Yeah, never switch sides. Worry about me and mine.
Welcome back to Talking About Sports with Reggie Walker, Mountaineer Mike Freer, John Tobias. I'm Kevin Casey. Senior producer Kevin Tolbert is over there somewhere running things. We were talking about the XFL before we went to the break. I'm all for the XFL. I think it's going to draw this time. Spring football, there's a market for football year-round. I was sad when the USFL went out of business. I remember the World Football League, the old Charlotte Hornets, the Honolulu Hawaiians, Birmingham, whatever they were. Reggie, you played at Penn State. You were with the Panthers. I think there's say 40-man rosters, 8 teams to start. That's 320 according to my VCU math. They didn't do a math building to me at VCU. You'll see that tomorrow. I think there's plenty of the guys, marginal guys who didn't make the practice squads, or guys who don't want to play in the Canadian League. I think there's enough jobs, enough good quality athletes to field a spring league. Reg, what do you think?
This is the XFL.
I always wanted to do that. Here's my thing on that.
I'll have to call John.
Yeah, I got it out of my system. I'll never do it again.
Your buddy, Jonathan Coachman.
So here's the interesting thing about that, Kev. What's going on with this league that Don Yee, the agent of Tom Brady, is trying to form and do in the spring along the same lines? Here's my issue. Whether it's the XFL, this league that Don Yee is trying to figure out how to do, I don't think there's space for 3 professional football leagues in the U.S., especially with Canada being the CFL being right up the street. So those two leagues, the XFL and whatever Don Yee's trying to do, they either need to come together or one of them's going to eat the other one alive. I'm not sure 4 professional football leagues can survive in North America. That's just me. There's not enough players, especially with the way
come together. Because the wise man once said everyone's got a price for the $1 million man. Vince McMahon knows it.
Ted DiBiase.
No, that's fair. But again,
I think they will come together, and I think you'll see a united spring football league. Maybe because the XFL is well known, and I would imagine if Tom Brady's behind it, his agent IMG and Robert Kraft are somehow involved.
I didn't say Tom Brady was behind it. His agent is.
His agent.
I didn't say he was.
So who knows? Tom Brady might be behind it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with that mixture of leagues. That's a big mixture of leagues, and at some point you're looking at a very big departure from a quality level of play that is watchable to the fan base. So I'm curious to see how that plays itself out.
Mike, what do you think?
I mean, it depends. What kind of league do they want it to be? Do they want it to be a league to be an extension of the NFL, like a carryover? As soon as the NFL is over, we pick up that steam. I mean, if it works out, that'd be great. I mean,
Mr. McMahon said it's not going to be a farm team. They're going to develop their own players and stars.
Well,
you can't have a record, and you got to stand for the anthem. Hey, they might. Well, on that note, they may not put a team in West Virginia, Mike. But
what Yee has been discussing is a situation where they're a minor league for the NFL, and so I think that's going to be the interesting dynamic. I think the minor league might get a little more eyeballs because it's a feeder system.
But I think realistically, Mike and JT, I think it has to be because I don't think Vince McMahon, who's going to own every team, that they're not going to be the Stone Cold Stunners in San Diego. They're not going to be the Goldbergs in Georgia, whatever they want to call these teams. I think Vince is the owner. He cannot compete out of his own pocket $100 million. He can't compete with the salaries in the NFL, although NFL guys want to lower them down. He can't compete, JT and Mike. What do you think?
Well, I guess the thing about it is I agree with Reg in terms of what he said in terms of maybe not enough for 3 leagues. My question is this, though, guys. The XFL came out when? Was it in 2000, 2001, somewhere around that time? And it obviously was not successful, even though I admire Vince McMahon as an entrepreneur. But with that being said, if it wasn't successful back then, what makes you guys or, the masses think that it's going to be successful this time?
I don't see it. I mean, I don't see it. I think that, especially if you really think you're going to, I know they're talking about the spring, but if you really think you're going to try and get up with the NFL, I know the NFL on the ratings, they're getting a hit. They get a lot of criticism this year.
There's Mick Mixon, the play-by-play voice of the Carolina Panthers, strolling by. I just wanted to make note of that.
Okay.
Top
He's
10
free to
shows
jump in anytime he wants.
The top 10 shows of 2017.
Yep, say it.
7 of them were still in the NFL.
Yeah.
And, top 10 TV episodes for 2017, 7 of them were in the NFL. The NFL still rules, and they always will.
And the other thing to me, to answer your question, JT, I'm going to tell you what the masses fell in love with. They fell in love with the 30 for 30 on the XFL, and it was very well done. And it got a lot of buzz, and it created a lot of attention. And I think it's a situation where Vince is saying, you know what, let me go ahead and try to strike while the iron is hot.
All right, well, it could be now from jabroni football to real football. The Super Bowl is this week, and I don't know if you heard about that, JT. The Eagles, who are probably going to see mass mayhem and lawlessness going on around Philadelphia.
Yes.
Against the most hated team, I call them America's team, the New England Patriots. Now, I don't know. Maybe Reggie can break out the electric football game.
Yeah, I saw that earlier. I thought that was pretty dope.
And I don't know, man. I think Nick Foles, William Wilson said they're the Ravens of now with their defense. And as long as Nick Foles doesn't throw an interception or have a fumble, they got a very good shot to win. But they're still the New England Patriots. They are still the champs. To be the champs, you've got to beat the champs.
You just said it in terms of minimizing turnovers. The thing about it is, guys, is that Jacksonville, they had their chance to beat New England.
Yeah, they
really
did.
They had their chances, and the thing about it is that when you're on top of them, you have to stay on top of them, literally. Even though they don't have Carson Wentz, we know that Carson Wentz is now a premier quarterback in the league. I definitely think that if Nick Foles plays the way that he played against the Vikings, I definitely think, and even against the Falcons to a certain degree, I definitely think that they have more of a puncher's chance to win this game?
Oh, I think the Eagles are going to win. And there you go right there. I think the Eagles are going to win.
All right.
Love it.
And
Are you
the
taking
reason is the same thing
Eagles
Reggie
are
and
the
I
points?
talked about before the show.
Let's talk about it. Let's go, baby.
The Eagles have the makeup to do it.
Yeah, they do. They're built to do it.
The front line, the defensive front line can put the pressure on Brady. No team in the league generated more pressures this year than the Eagles. The problem is no quarterback was better
Against
facing
pressure.
than Tom Brady.
Right.
So
Right.
there is a little contrast, but if they can do what they've been doing, the Eagles defense, get the pressure up the middle with the front line that they have without having the blitz, they really have an excellent chance to do it because I think they match up very well across the board otherwise.
Yeah, and Freer, to your point, one of the things that I was looking at and thinking about is Tom Brady's now in – this is Super Bowl number 8 for him. He's won 5 of the previous 7. The 2 he lost against the New York Giants with groups that included coming from the edge, Justin Tuck, Jason Pierre-Paul, Matthias Kiwanuka, the Hall of Famer Michael Strahan, etc. I am not suggesting that the Eagles are that good with edge pass rushers. But I will say this. Timmy Jernigan in the middle, Fletcher Cox in the middle.
Highest paid
That
defensive
group
lineman.
in the middle for the Eagles is better than
apparently,
anything the Giants
allegedly.
ever had in terms of a pass rush up the middle. And I think this group, to Freer's point, they led the league in pressures. I think this group is good enough to get to Tom Brady. The question is, and again, no one talks about how good or not good the Patriots' offensive line is, but all I got to say is somehow every time Belichick, with the exception of those 2 times in the Super Bowl against the Giants, regardless of what his offensive line is supposed to be from a talent standpoint, they seem to find a way to be good enough on Super Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
So I expect them to be pretty good on Sunday, and I'll be curious to see who wins that battle up front.
Now, JT, Fletcher Cox has been charged with homewrecking, with the
saw that.
alienation of affection in North Carolina for allegedly hitting on a bartender, and she apparently acquiesced to his advances, and now the husband is saying that it's Fletcher Cox's fault. I always came from it takes 2 to tango.
Right.
Now, Reggie made a good point about the Patriots and the Giants. I never could feel like JPP, J.C. Pierre-Paul, could get a hand on Brady. What do you think?
When you say that,
I'm just saying.
yeah, okay. I'm not gonna fall for that with the hand thing. Okay, all right.
He's an explosive
Yeah.
player. Now,
Nothing to see here. Moving along.
what about Gronk is not clear. He's practiced, but he hasn't been officially cleared. I think if New England is going to win, he's got to be in the lineup. They could win without him, but it makes it a lot easier with him in the lineup.
100%, without a doubt. I mean, clearly he's the best tight end. He's been the best tight end probably for about the past 5, maybe 8 years or so. Premier player. And the thing about it is that I'm not sure if the Eagles, if they have like the personnel, to handle him, because even with Jacksonville, they kind of toyed at times with Jalen Ramsey,
Right.
guarding him.
Right.
But in terms of they have good linebackers. But Reg, I mean, even like a strong safety standpoint, do you think that the Eagles have like someone on defense that can actually like hold Gronk to a certain extent?
No, there's never I'm not sure there's a guy in the league that can one-on-one deal with him. If you put a linebacker on him, they're too slow. You put a safety on him, he's too big. You put a corner on him, he's too big. That's actually not my biggest concern. I think you can actually, in certain ways, let him get his to an extent. I think the key is you can't let the Amendolas and the Edelmans and those types of guys
And the
beat you.
Hogans.
Here's the key to this whole thing on the back end of this Eagles defense. Malcolm Jenkins is the veteran of that group. He's in his 9th year in the league. I get that. Rodney McLeod, nobody knows who he is, the other safety. He's in his 6th year in the league. Solid player. The problem is this. Ronald Darby, year 3. Jalen Mills, year 2. These are young corners against a veteran group of receivers and quarterback that do a lot of things in the passing game off of sight adjustments and reads. Now, a lot of their stuff is not totally predetermined routes. It's based on reads. Can these 2 young guys, as talented as they are, from a physical standpoint, can they play the chess game? Can they match wits with Tom Brady, Josh McDaniels, and this offense against that receiving core to minimize those guys making those not great plays throughout the game, But the big plays in the big moments, because experience is not a factor for them, they're going to be comfortable in those moments.
All right, Reggie, before we go to a break, tell me, and it's real quick now, where are you going to be? You're very notable on Twitter for what you put out these big spreads of food. Where are you going to watch the game, and what do you got at the Reggie Walker house? What are you eating?
I'll be at an undisclosed location, not my house. I will not be cooking, so I'm going to eat good.
Parts unknown. Mikey, you're not going to West Virginia, we hope. No squirrels or raccoons or anything, or possums up there, I hope.
No, but we all appreciate this stereotype you keep perpetuating week after week.
I'm just saying, I've watched Bizarre Food.
No, I will be at home, and we'll see what I'm not sure what we'll have to eat.
So it's a game time decision?
It is definitely a game time decision.
Check my Twitter and Instagram for pictures of food, though.
That's what I'm saying. That's what JT, what do you got?
After work, I have a game, Boston College and Florida State, but that's noon. So after that,
you got Memphis State and East Carolina.
No, that's Saturday.
You're always on the go.
Yeah, but then after that, I may go over to your house. You never know.
I'm going with the pork picnic, man. I'm a crock pot. I'm thinking about maybe some big pork or something like that.
All right.
Lots of barbecue.
Save some room for it, brother.
Send us your pictures. Check out what Reggie's got going. Send us your stuff to Talking About Sports here at ADSN. Look us up. We'll probably have Kevin Tolbert will probably put a fancy graphic underneath what I'm saying, and so he'll tell you where to send your photos and let us know what you're doing. But we've got more to go. We've got the Tar Heels on a slide. UFC came to Charlotte. The Charlotte Hornets. That and much, much more on Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grille.
We're going to go a full timeout. All I got to say is it football season yet? This stuff is too good to pass up. There's so many things that have to go right in a no-hitter. Huge game changer. I would have won the Powerball like 6 times. Kevin Casey here, and this is your podcast, Talking About Sports, the Carolina's own sports talk show.
With you was grind time. Yeah, I never switch sides. Worry about me and mine. I'm about to beat you guys to the finish line. Said I'm prime time. Yeah, you working part time, and I'm ready anytime. I can just look at you and tell. I got a key in the gate. I cannot put it with you was grind. Yeah, I never switch sides. Worry about me and mine.
We're talking about sports on
We're talking about sports at ADS. I don't know how to say that.
We're talking about
sports in. Oh God, I forgot.
ADSN.
What is it?
ADSN.
ADSN. Okay.
Yeah. We're talking about sports.
Talking about sports.
We're talking about sports.
Talking sports.
Talking about sports. We're talking about sports on ADSN.
Talking about sports on ADSN.
Okay.
Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grille. Kevin Tolbert behind the scenes, running things with Reggie Walker, Mountaineer Mike Freer, JT John Tobias. JT, you've worked Virginia and Duke and North Carolina and Clemson. North Carolina on the ropes these days, and Virginia got the better hand of Duke at Cameron Indoor Stadium last week. Your thoughts on both North Carolina and Duke?
Well, first off, the Carolina-Clemson game, I had the pleasure to be right beside Reese Davis and Jay Billis for that game on Tuesday.
Did you walk 94 feet with Jay?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not. Yeah, KT saw me. But here's the thing. The thing about it is this. We knew that they would be they as in Carolina. We knew that they would suffer in terms of like interior post defense because Kennedy Meeks left, right. Terry Bradley surprisingly left, Isaiah Hicks left. But what's been killing them guys has been their three-point defense. They cannot guard anybody. Clemson made 15 three-pointers against them. I think there have been at least 6 or 7 games where UNC has given up 10 or more threes in a game. So that has been a problem. And a lot of the times Roy would turn around and look at Jay and Reese like in a bewildered way, like throwing his hands up like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
You know, it's crazy. That was the second straight game that – that their opponent went 15 for 30 from three-point range.
Right, because the other was NC State.
Yeah, exactly. You look at UNC. I mean, 16-7 this year, and the problem for them is their schedule doesn't get easier.
No.
They still have the 2 games with Duke coming up. They still have to go on the road to NC State that already beat them in their place. They still have a game at Louisville. They still have a game at Syracuse. While those teams aren't world beaters, you still have to go into their building and come away with a win. It's not looking good right now, and it's not going to get any easier is the problem for Roy Williams.
Here's the thing. I don't expect it to totally change much, guys. You just made a point about the three-point shooting. Here's the piece of that. When you know that if a guy goes by you, he's going to get a layup, you got to back up, which means what? You get space to shoot the jump shot. You get space to shoot the three ball. So some of these things are about connectivity and understanding where you want to give that up. Most coaches will tell you they'd rather give up a bunch of three-point attempts than a bunch of layups. I'm not making excuses for Roy, but when you're void of certain things, those can affect other areas as well. So sometimes when we look at statistics, there are things behind things, right? You mentioned Bradley's gone, Meeks is gone, Hicks is gone. That lack of interior presence creates a situation where guys are afraid that if somebody blows by me, it's a layup. So I got to stay back. I got to play a little bit off, which opens up space for guys to knock down jump shots.
Okay, JT, you were working the game. You've got a lot of connections and behind-the-scenes informants, if you will. What's up with am I pronouncing it Jalik Felton?
Jalik Felton. I have no idea. I mean,
that's trouble running the family because, that's Raymond Felton's nephew, and he's had some off-court issues too.
It is really tight-lipped. I mean, they're keeping this under wraps. So, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I have no idea. I'm hoping that everything works out for the kid.
He's played in the first 22 games, so he's a contributor.
Right.
You would hate he obviously plays some defense.
He's a definitive role player, correct, and they need him obviously with three-point shooting defense. But in terms of what's going on, I can't really speak on it. I have no idea. I can speak on the Duke UVA game.
All right,
though.
now let's talk. All right, since we don't have any definitive where we're not going to speculate, at least not on this show. JT, Duke and Clemson, I think in Virginia, 8-2, they're very close to being number one. Virginia is a very good defensive ball club, led by former Charlotte Hornet Tony Bennett. I really like them. They're a sound defensive ball club. The knock on them is they can't score enough. Mm-hmm. Have they addressed that? Because Duke is a very solid ball club. I even saw this Australian guy in the post game with Grayson Allen. Mm-hmm. So does Duke have enough to make a big run, or is Virginia going to be the top dog in the ACC?
That's one of the best games that I have seen this year, if not the best game in terms of the UVA Duke game that I did on Saturday. Because here's the thing, guys, just like we had talked about last week, there's like a duality in terms of Duke and teams like UVA now, because Duke is starting to become like Kentucky in terms of getting like a lot of one-and-done guys, but a lot of times that does not equate to success because Carolina, even though they're Carolina, they don't have a lot of one-and-done guys. They won a national championship last year. The year before that, Villanova, they don't have really any one-and-done guys. They won a national championship. Think of powerhouse like Wichita State and Cincinnati. Said all that to say this. UVA came out smoking in that game, smoking. Duke came back with a vengeance. Yep. And at some point, Duke had the lead with about 3 or 4 minutes to go. Then you started to see experience against McDonald's All-Americans. And in that particular game, in Cameron, as you guys know just as well as I do, one of the toughest places to play in the country, experience without any high-profile McDonald's All-American prevailed.
Not only can you use the concept of experience, but what is one thing we always talk about in sports that always travels? Defense. Mm-hmm. That's Virginia's calling card. And down the stretch of that game, they locked down defensively and found a way to escape with a victory.
Well, I think what Kevin said was a good point because Tony Bennett's had that. Tony Bennett's had that defense. He's had a great defensive philosophy for years.
Yeah,
Virginia's had a great defensive team for years, and they're always in the top, near the top in the defense ranking. This might be the first time you can really look at Virginia and go, I think they have enough on the offensive end to carry them to a Final Four with the defense they have. I was really impressed with that performance against Duke, the way they came back. They had the lead. They lost it on the road, and they could have, folded, shop or whatever, but they could have folded down, shut it down, and they bounced back. They got tougher. They defense got tougher, and they came away with, like you said, a really big win at a really tough place to play.
Could have been a game that determines a number 1 seed, a regional number 1 seed, JT.
They're 3 games ahead of everybody right now in ACC.
I'm
UVA
just saying,
is.
and when they go to the selection show,
Yeah.
they're going to be a regional number 1.
And they smoked Louisville last night.
Was the guy in the Speedo there in the crowd behind the basket?
Didn't see him.
Because I don't know. I heard he's been banned. I mean, how about the crazy towel guy?
I thought that was you.
No, that wasn't me. You've seen that. I'm telling you that right now. The crazy towel guy. They give him his little high spot.
Yeah, I thought it was you.
No, I'm not. That dude's like 90, man.
Oh, okay, all right.
I mean, I'm getting there, but I mean, it's going to be a while. I thought the guy in the Speedo and the towel guy are 2 different guys.
Okay, all right.
Remember that guy? He was behind the basket.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, I've covered 100 games at Duke, man. I'm telling you, I know the racket and the routine.
I got
you. What about? And speaking of which, what are some? I like Villanova, Virginia, maybe Duke. What are some other teams that maybe some people aren't talking about? I know West Virginia, Mike, has looked like they've come on some bad times of late.
Michael Ray Richardson once said the ship be sinking.
I remember him, man.
Sugar Ray
did
Richardson,
too.
he was raw.
And I think that is very
get
close
kicked
to
out
being
of the league?
applied to the Mountaineers right now. It's a rough go of it right now, but yeah, we'll see how they turn it around. They have plenty of games left.
I thought they were a 1 seed at one time.
They were.
Certainly look like when they were number 2 in the country.
Kansas took the wood to them. Oklahoma, TCU. I like TCU and unheralded.
And once again, it's going to be Kansas in the Big 12.
Okay, well,
every
Death,
year,
Texas, Kansas Jayhawks win the Big 12 regular season.
every year.
Mark it down.
all right. Well, I think a team. Watch out in the Colonial Athletic Association, JT, for William and Mary.
Okay,
This is a
the
team-
Tribe?
The Tribe, my man Connor Birchfield from Concord High. Watch out. This is a team that shoots 80% from the field. I mean, from the free throw line, 50% from the field, and 40% from the from the 3-point line.
Okay.
That's never been done in the history of college basketball. And that's a team that could not only, because they took TCU to the wire with Ahmed Hamdi, the VCU transfer, leading the way for TCU.
I'm impressed, Kev.
So anyway, we've got Wake Forest, plus we've got the Hornets, UFC. JT, you got time for one more segment?
Yes.
You got to get
Yes,
All
one
right.
more.
We got to have you here. All right, more talking about sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grille.
Thanks, Mike. I
coming up
appreciate
next.
you.
Food.
Just stick around for the food. That's right.
Oh, I got it.
I got a kingdom to get. I cannot build it with you, it's grind time. Yeah, I never switch sides. Worry about me and mine. I'm about to beat you guys to the finish line. Said I'm prime time. Yeah, you working part time, and I'm ready anytime. I can just look at you and tell. I got a kingdom to get. I cannot build it with you, it's grind time. Yeah, I never switch sides. Worry about me and mine. I'm about to beat you guys.
Do just Wake Forest and Oklahoma. All right, welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grille. John, thank you, Kevin Tolbert, off camera, telling me a rearrangement of the lineup here. Reggie Walker, Mountaineer Mike Freer, JT, John Tobias. Wake Forest, Danny Manning, who I am very high on as a coach. They've maybe their ship be sinking. They're not doing so good lately, but I still think they compete. They lost a couple guys to the pros that maybe were unexpected. I still think Danny Manning's the guy to lead them. He may not be Skip Prosser or maybe even Dino Gaudio, but he's a good coach, and I think give the man time. I think he's going to do well at Wake Forest.
Yeah, I like what Danny's doing. Here's the thing. We could have probably have assumed that he was going to lose John Collins to the NBA. I get that.
He looked good against the Hornets last night.
But to lose Mitoglu like that, Dinos Mitoglu, just to go overseas, no, I shouldn't say just, but to go back overseas and play professional ball in Greece, that hurts. And I think, a lot of times we look at certain players and we look at numbers and we think, oh, he's not as good as this guy or that guy. But at a place like Wake Forest and anywhere really in college basketball, when you're trying to rebuild a program, to lose certain players early like that, not necessarily to the NBA, it hurts. It can affect you a lot. I'm sure John Collins was probably a guy that maybe they anticipated they wouldn't have for 4 years, but I guarantee you they anticipated they would have Dinos Mitoglu for longer than they had him.
I agree. And the thing about it is that, honestly, guys, if Danny Manning had not led the team to an NCAA appearance last year, I think he would honestly be in serious trouble. I think that has helped him. I think another thing that's helped him, like Reg said, in terms of losing.
Grew up there.
Yeah, he went to Page High School. In terms of like losing, the two guys. And also the thing about it is that they have a really good recruiting class coming in. They don't expect any guys to leave this year.
No.
Like Brian Crawford, he's probably their best player.
He better not leave.
Keyshawn Woods, who's from Gastonia, went to UNC Charlotte for 1 year.
Gas House.
Yep, there you go. So I don't think they're going to lose any guys. But in addition to that, they have a really good recruiting class. I think they may be like the fourth best, highest ranked recruiting class in the ACC.
Yeah.
Well, did he break out a Gas House reference over there for my friends in Gastonia?
He did.
Here's the thing about Wake Forest. I mean, their record isn't great. We all know it's 8-13 overall, 1-8 in the ACC. But it's not as if they've been embarrassed every time they're out there.
No.
And they had a big win against Florida State last night.
Big win against Florida State last night.
They have 2 losses. 2 of the losses are to Duke. 1 versus UVA, 2 of the top teams in the country. They had UVA down at the half. They had NC State down at the half. They only lost to UNC by 4. They're not having a great season, obviously.
But they're not that far.
A terrible, terrible season. And
They're
it's
not the
not
Charlotte 49ers.
certainly nothing that should cost Danny Manning his job.
I know it's your alma mater, but they're garbage right now. And you can't fire Danny Manning. His dad was Ed Manning, played for the Carolina Cougars of the ABA, JT.
You know a lot, man. How old are you?
I don't know. Older than you are. But then again, I'm not driving a brand new Infiniti.
Oh, stop, man.
You are the
Stop,
man.
stop.
You are the.
That's not mine.
You are wheeling. It is yours.
It's my grandma's.
Come on, man. Yeah, right. Mountaineer Mike, you are our Big 12 expert. Oklahoma's Trey Young. Am I reading this right? 44 points a game. That can't be a game.
That is no.
Oh yeah.
You think he's
no? He's not
Pistol
averaging
Pete?
44 a game. He had 44 against Baylor.
Okay, but he's no Pistol Pete when it comes to the. But he's lighting up. He could be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft if he goes pro, or maybe the Bagley guy from Duke. Mike, what do you think about Oklahoma and the Big 12 in general?
In my opinion, the Big 12 is the toughest conference this year in college basketball. Every game is brutal. Trey Young leads the nation in points and assists. I mean, that's never been done before.
That's incredible.
And he's doing it as a freshman. He's got range that reminds people of Steph Curry. He's got a shooting motion that reminds people of Steph Curry. And I would say this, while it's not fair to put him in that category, I wonder what Steph Curry was as a freshman at Davidson compared to what Trey Young is doing right now. So
I'll just say that.
I'm a big fan. I'm a believer in him. I think he it doesn't look good all the time. He looks like a chucker sometimes. He's 39 shots in one game earlier this year. But for me, he's fun to watch. And the Mountaineers got to go there Monday night. It's gonna be a tough one.
Where's that game?
It's in Norman.
Oh, that's a tough place, man.
It's going to be a tough place.
Jim Ross may be there. Good old JR may be there. He's a big Oklahoma guy.
And we beat them the first time in Morgantown, and they're going to be out for revenge. And we gave Trey Young a hard time in that matchup, and I'm sure he's going to come back for
Morgantown. More. Bonfire in every corner, JT. Believe me, I've been there. I played there. I played at Mountaineer Stadium. I got pelted with rocks and debris, M&Ms, and you name it. Mike, I still think that that league. That you think the ACC top to bottom, but the Big 12 to me, they are neck and neck, the top 2 conferences in basketball. You look at those guys going on the road in that conference, and who lost at Iowa State last night?
Mountaineers went there and got handed to them.
Anytime you go on the road, whether it be in the ACC or the Big 12, is a tall task.
I think the fact that you have to play every team twice.
Yeah.
You have to go into really tough arenas every night. For me, at least, it's not overall year in and year out, but for this year, the Big 12 to me is the toughest conference in college basketball. It's just a tough place. Where are the easy games?
There are no easy games. And let me tell you something else. One thing about the Big 12, and I am very serious about this. As an athlete, when you get off a plane / bus to go to an arena and go to certain cities, the feel can overwhelm you sometimes. Let's think about some of the cities you have to go to in the Big 12.
Play at West Virginia at Mountaineer Stadium?
No, but you got to go.
Good.
Think about this. You got to go into Morgantown. Not the easiest place to travel to.
Done it.
Texas Tech, which is in Lubbock, not the easiest place to travel to.
Guns up.
Stillwater, not the easiest place to travel to. Waco, not always that easy to get to.
Manhattan,
you start
Kansas.
thinking Ames. Not all these places are that easy. Manhattan,
Kansas.
Kansas.
W.
Lawrence, Kansas. There's always an
guaranteed
added
W.
piece of it. When you're going into these types of places and then you got full arenas with fans on top of you, it can be a lonely feeling going into some of these places to try to play a basketball game or a football game for that matter.
I'm telling you, man, Reggie's onto it, man. There are some places, you mentioned it, JT, Cameron Indoor Stadium. North Carolina, they do have to pipe in the crowd noise every now and then from what reports said, but that's still, you walk into that building, you see all those banners up there. You see Michael Jordan and Tyler Hansbrough and James Worthy and all these other guys. So we've got, can you stay? I know we're going to. Can you stay? You know, you got to get on the road. You got George Washington, who's it? Gardner Webb and Radford tonight.
Yes.
You got time?
Yes,
Sure?
yes.
All right, good.
Yes.
We've got Hornets, UFC recap. Tiger Woods, is he up to some night putting? We'll talk more UFC, Hornets, and golf right here on Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grille. Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grille with Kevin Tolbert, JT, Mountaineer Mike Freer, Reggie Walker. Charlotte Hornets, JT, I don't know if we're going to give him a report card. Kemba Walker still looks good. Do we know there could be some rumors that, with who was it got hurt? Kevin Love, who Kevin Love to begin with. He could, Kevin Tolbert could be, not Kevin Tolbert, but Kemba Walker could be on the All-Star team. I like them. They they destroy the Hawks like a lot of people do. A lot of distractions, as you point out, in Atlanta.
Yes.
So, but they took care of business last night.
Yes, they did for sure. And the thing about it is, we talked about this, ad nauseum, like every week in terms of like what the Hornets should do. And like we always say,
lose.
Either you should be really good or really bad. Like the worst part you should be is like the middle of the pack. So the Hornets right now are 4 games out of the 8th playoff spot. But yet at the same time, they're 6 games out from having the worst record in the East.
Yeah.
I told you what I think they need to do, but I tell you what, and I've said it many times, Dwight Howard, people talk about, Kemba Walker maybe being an all-star.
He's going to help in a playoff team.
Somebody was on a poster last night.
If anybody, it should be Dwight Howard representing the Hornets. You know who led the league in blocks in January?
Yeah.
Dwight around your lip.
D12.
If I'm the Spurs, I'm going to trade Rudy Gay his expiring contract for Dwight Howard's expiring contract, and I think that's a win for both teams.
Dwight's contract's not expiring. He's got another year.
It's not going to make the Hornets any better to get rid of Dwight Howard for another expiring contract.
No.
When Dwight Howard would be gone after this year anyway. The problem with the Hornets.
He can opt in or opt out.
Correct.
Right.
He going
the problem with the Hornets is
maybe Michael Jordan
they
give one
don't
of those
just have
jump
one
man
bad
deals.
contract. They have
multiple
3 or 4 or 5 bad contracts. And you have to, like we said last week, you can't get rid of those, so you have to offer up Kemba Walker to try and take one of these other contracts. And I don't know if that's going to be done or not. I liked what I saw last night. The problem with the Hornets now, you said they're 4 games out, they're running out of games. They're just, every week they're running out of games.
39 to go?
You can't go
Stephanie
500
Reddy said
for a
last
week.
night.
And February is always a tough month for them because they always play most of their games on the road in February because the CIAA tournament is in February in Charlotte. So that's going to be a tough stretch.
I'm going to say it right now, I don't care who you get or I don't care how good Kemba is. You ain't getting me to take Nick Batum's contract. It ain't happening.
And that's why Kemba Walker's not going anywhere.
That's exactly right.
And,
ain't nobody taking that deal.
No, I agree.
I say with the guys, you got Mike, you got some fantasy action here, and does the Blake Griffin trade to the Pistons shake up some fantasy? Is that making any reverberations in fantasy land?
I don't think it will. I think personally his game, the way his game is this year, matches up ideally with the Pistons game. So I think that's going to be his number. If you like Blake Griffin before, you're going to like him going forward here. For this week, as I decided to look at the center position for our daily fantasy thing, and I'm looking at some centers.
Mike, got some reality.
Here we go. Actually, you can slide that cheese all the way down there to the big fella. You can lead him wings right there.
There you go.
Because I'm Chusky and I'm going to eat Fat
Sorry,
Boy does a
Mike.
10-piece. Rick Ross, Chusky Boy 8-piece right here.
I always pause for food, but as I was saying, I was looking at the center position.
Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond look good together.
I think they look very good, and Drummond's another guy who's a big pick in daily fantasy. The problem is he's really an expensive pick on your budget. So there's some guys that go lower in the budget that you might be interested in. One of the guys, Hassan Whiteside, he's a little bit less. I'm not a big fan
Where's he
because
from?
of
Is he from Gastonia?
He is. I'm not a big
Gas
fan.
House.
Not a big fan of him because of the price tag, but he's got some decent numbers overall. And they played the Magic on Monday. He's averaging 14 and 14 against the Magic this year. So on Monday you might want to look into him. Al Horford's another center that could provide some value. On Friday, the Celtics play the Hawks, who have the worst defense in the league, and that's his former team, so he might be up for that. He gives you a lot of assists, too. Al Horford, 5 assists a game, only one of 3
But you don't hate
centers.
Whiteside just because he's from Gastonia, though.
No.
Let's make that clear. Okay?
I would. Clint Capella, here's a good story. Clint Capella has the same numbers across the board as Hassan Whiteside, but on your daily fantasy budget, he's $2,000 less. So he's somebody to think about going forward. Some other options for value: Enes Kanter of the Knicks. He had a 20-20 game a couple games ago. Pau Gasol of the Spurs. He's 37 years old, but he's still giving you 14
Solid.
and 10 and almost 4 assists a game over his last 7 games. And
Modern day Billy Paultz.
For real value, Derek Favors costs you less than $6,000 on your daily fantasy budget, but he's putting up the same type of fantasy numbers that a guy like Pau Gasol is. So there's some value at the center position if you want to think about for daily fantasy.
I can't believe you don't know Billy Paultz, the Whopper from the ABA San Antonio Spurs.
I'm not as old as you, man.
All right. Well, thanks for rubbing that in. You made that point about 10 times. One quick note here before we go to break. James Harden in NBA history, first triple-double with 60 points, breaking the Rockets' single-game scoring record of 57 by Calvin Murphy, who I got to meet when I worked down in Houston. Great guy down there. Just don't hang
By the way,
around.
keep this in mind. Wilt Chamberlain, they didn't have the blocks back then. Wilt Chamberlain, I'm sure, had a 60-point triple-double back in his day.
Wilt Chamberlain's the greatest off-court scorer in the history of maybe mankind, not to mention the NBA. So, speaking of which, Tiger Woods, and he does a lot of off-the-court scoring. UFC recap, we've got that and much, much more. Can you stay one more? We're
I gotta go.
You got to go. All right. Before we go, Gardner-Webb at Radford tonight, right?
Yes.
Rhode Island at my Virginia Commonwealth Rams Friday. You're going to be in my hometown, man.
Yes,
I told you where to go.
I'm going to tell people that I know you.
Memphis and East Carolina Saturday.
Yes.
And did you say BC and Florida State Sunday?
On Sunday.
Okay, you're jet setting. You span the globe
Busy
more than Jim
man.
McKay.
I'm going to try, man.
All right.
Trying to be like you guys, man.
All right. Well, we've got UFC, Tiger Woods, night putting, and much, much more from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grille. This is Talking About Sports.
Night putting. I wonder if we're going to do another one.
You got that right.
Yeah.
Good to be back in Charlotte for the first time since 2010, and we will get right to it. 146, 146.
You see it?
Reppin' Cramerton, North Carolina. Please welcome Justine Pitch.
Oh man, tonight was awesome. Stare downs, weigh-ins, the girls. You can't get any better, man.
Young guys trying to take my crown. No, I don't think you want to do that.
Oh man, this is awesome. Like, all my favorite fighters on the stage, and then the big guys back there. That was awesome. It's my first event, so I'm lost for words. This is awesome.
It's great. I'm sitting in the 7th row, cage side, so I feel the energy. Get to see all the fighters up close and personal, and feel the energy. I mean, it's just going to be an awesome night.
You see it? That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Fighting out of Charlotte, North Carolina, Jordan Rinaldi. Now it's time to take a closer look at the men on the marquee. The 2 middleweights who will share the octagon tomorrow night in our 5-round main event. Take a look. 185, the official weight for Derek Brunson and the former Strikeforce middleweight champion, number 3 in the world, Jacare Souza.
The Panthers are big, the Hornets are big, but nothing's bigger than the UFC.
It's go time tomorrow, you know. We have some fast. It's my time now. Plan on putting some punches on that chin.
All the best tomorrow night. Thanks for your time. Derek Brunson, folks.
It's a new fight for me. I'm ready for destroy him. I know he's this guy, man. He watch me like this, but I know he's this guy. I'm ready for finishing him this fight.
When they come to your hometown, you can't beat that. You know, so coming out here with friends tomorrow night is going to be awesome.
Can I get it with
Announcing.
I don't know, it's one per position.
All right, welcome back to Talking About Sports. Great job, John Anik and Dominic Cruz on the UFC call on Fight Night for Derek Brunson and Jacare Souza. That I was there, cage side. Derek Brunson from Wilmington, wrestled at UNC Pembroke. Got schooled for the most part. I think Dominic Cruz made a very good point in the post game. He needs to spar more. Brunson is a hard hitter. He never could get close enough. Jacare Souza, with his long reach, he tagged him with the kick to the head, and then he staggered him, knocked him down. He was dazed, and by the time Souza came in very methodically, landed several shots, and 4 or 5 unanswered shots is going to get you a stoppage in today's MMA. So tough break for Derek Brunson, but he's still young. He's got a good career. He's going to have to go down a little bit and fight his way back to the top. Souza, I think he might fight Chris Weidman, and the winner is going to get a title shot against the winner of this week's pay-per-view. Also, Charlotte's Jordan Rinaldi, who went to UNC Charlotte. He got beat by a guy who's really on the rise, a guy who could be a future champion, and Gregor Gillespie, who from New York State, Mountaineer Mike Freer. He's now 10-0, and he's a guy
very nice
with very good grappling skills. He's like an anaconda. He will squeeze you till your lungs collapse, and then he only squeezes harder. So I was very glad to see the UFC come back, second time since a UFC Fight Night in 2010 at the Bojangles Coliseum. I can easily see from the turnout, I think there was about 11,000 paid, about a $1 million gate. I could see a pay-per-view main event frontline stars coming to Charlotte in 2018.
That'd be huge for the city.
Now, a couple other notes. Former Charlotte Knight and my buddy from down in Puerto Rico in the Winter League Baseball when I was wrestling down there, Jim Tomey, into the Hall of Fame. I think that's a no-brainer, Mike.
I think it was good to see. The numbers alone.
600 home runs, right?
Yeah, over 600 home runs, top 10 in home runs all time, over 2,300 hits, 6 times with 40 or more home runs, 5-time All-Star. He was, to be an All-Star, in my opinion, or Hall of Famer, excuse me, you need to be a premier player for an extended period of time during your era. I think Jim Tomey clearly defined that.
Absolutely. Reg, not only Jim Tomey going into the Baseball Hall of Fame, Tiger Woods coming back from not just the night putting, but from back injuries. And I think he finished a complete round and even was heckled over the weekend down at the Waste Management Tournament. So you got any thoughts on Jim Tomey or Tiger Woods?
Yeah, well, first of all, congratulations to Tomey. I thought I always respected his ability as a hitter and as a player. You know, a DH kind of first base kind of guy, but actually had a better glove than people gave him credit for.
Came up
when
as
he
a third
did play
baseman.
first base. Spent some time at third base as well. So a nice career for him. And speaking of Hall of Fames, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, that class will be announced on Saturday.
Roman Gabriel should be in it.
A big debate by a lot of people is whether or not, maybe T.O. versus Randy Moss, who should get in. As far as I'm concerned, It's an absolute
Who's on
travesty
TV
that
now?
T.O. is not already in. That guy should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I don't know
He's
about
not
that.
for whatever reason. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be an
we know
interesting.
the reason.
And I've been in the same room when somebody finds out they made the Hall of Fame.
Who was it?
I was there when Michael Irvin found out he was a Pro Football Hall of Famer, and he cried like a baby. I'm going to tell you that right now. That man was so appreciative of that honor, and it's just
Big
amazing to
diamonds.
see how guys react to that to getting that phone call.
I can't. I'm not going to say what I want to say as a Redskins fan, but I hope Greg Olson was the Walter Payton Man of the Year. He's one of the 3 finalists. I'm hoping he was a finalist last year. Two guys shared the award last year, so I'm hoping Greg Olson can win it. Although Benjamin Watson of the Ravens is a tremendous human. All these guys are great human beings.
Yeah,
Benjamin Watson
clearly.
Just does so many
When
things.
you represent your team as Man of the Year candidate, you're a pretty
The
good
kicker
guy.
for the 49ers from Northwest Cabarrus and Clemson is the Walter Payton Man of the Year.
right.
Gave his tickets away to some military families and some. So a lot of charity work going on there. So a final thought, it could be Super Bowl. You like wings, as it seems, Red. So a final thought, or maybe disclosing some of your undisclosed plans for the Super Bowl.
My final thought would be the NBA trade, the big NBA trade, Blake Griffin. Apparently, according to Blake, he found out about the trade on Twitter. This is getting out of control.
Kind of like Kendall Fuller.
There is no way in the world to me, especially with your marquee player that you just gave a max contract to less than a year ago.
That's a salary dump.
Finds out that he is traded via social media. That's absurd. That's a travesty.
That's
and it's
the Clipper
a joke.
way.
And if that's true, the Clippers organization is an absolute joke, and there is no way I would consider dealing with them if I was a big-time player in the NBA.
There are the Clippers, Mountaineer Mike. So what do you got?
My final thought is going back to the Super Bowl. I'm as I mentioned earlier in the show.
You're going with it. You're taking the Eagles. You're going out on a limb.
I'm taking the Eagles. I think the Eagles have what it takes to win. I thought during the season, earlier in the season, I made a comment to somebody about the Patriots that I thought the difference with the Patriots this season was it used to be you had to play your best game to beat them. You had to play your really best. And earlier in the season, I watched some of the games with the Patriots. It didn't look like you needed to play your absolute A game to beat them. Now,
Wow.
They picked up steam. They got on the roll. They're obviously in the Super Bowl, so they're an unbelievably talented team. I just think the Eagles match up with this team with the exception of the quarterbacks. And then it's a matter, do you believe in Nick Foles has enough to get the Eagles over the hump? I'm of the belief that he does.
Are they invincible, as my good friend Vince Papale would say? I know Bill Berge, Roman Gabriel, Vince Papale. They're all on the Tom Brady. They're all on the Eagle bandwagon. I don't know. I'm still torn, kind of like William Wilson, kind of torn as an NFC
No, it's not
East
like
guy.
they're going to win by 20 points or anything. I think they're going to win, and it'll be a field goal or whatever. But I think in the end, they're going to win.
All right. My final thought, hearts go out for me anyway. Former Charlotte Hornet and San Antonio Spur at one point. Rasul Butler, tragic situation with an automobile crash with his wife. So thoughts and prayers from the Talking About Sports ADSN family for Rasul Butler and his family. So there you got it. All right, Reggie, Mountaineer Mike's going out on a limb. He's going with the Eagles. Is it straight out or just the points?
I'll do both. What's
All right, okay. Reg, what do you got?
I'm going to pick the Patriots, but I hope I'm wrong.
Well, a lot of times you get your wish, but you're the most knowledgeable guy among the three of us right now in terms of pro and college football. So,
Not the highest of praise, but you get
it ain't.
For John Tobias, who's on assignment, Mike Pacheco's out at the Winthrop Liberty game. JT's on his way to George Washington Radford tonight. So good luck getting there. And for Kevin Tolbert, our senior producer, Reggie Walker, Mountaineer World Beat, Mike Freer, I'm Kevin Casey from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grille. This has been Talking About Sports. So long for now.
Grub time.